really trying to work with this shoe here. I'm gonna hit test miles 40 to 50 on this run here today. I've been trying to give it some time to break in. Something about the feel is just not what I expected. You can see here Prodigio Max. It's somewhat firmer than I thought it would be, and from memory, checking the shoe out at TRE, I had in my mind that it would be kind of a step up in softness and cushion from the Pro model here, and I'm just finding, I don't know, it's definitely a higher stack. You're definitely further off the ground, surely more protected, full coverage outsole here, but it doesn't have that softness and feel. And I'm also noticing a difference in kind of elasticity in this model here, the Max. The Pro, clearly more flexible. Check out my last best of 2025 QA video. I did a similar kind of flexing and feel thing. You have fully connected rubber in this shoe, a little bit of a cutout here, but it just seems to be, I don't know, there's a lack of flex around here, which I'm feeling. I've been trying to work with it over these test runs here, see if they kind of open up. The softness have certainly kind of broken in a bit. You could see some creasing, not that that affects anything, but they do feel a little bit softer than the first test runs. But I haven't found much difference in that kind of flex and elasticity around the midfoot on the run that I love so much with the Pro model here. Okay, so 10 more test miles today. We'll see how it goes. I might do a round with a shoe on each foot. We'll see, but I'm gonna try to run in just a Max for now and give my full thoughts and review on the run as usual. Actually, let me pop these back on. I will talk about sizing. I find the Pro noticeably more spacious. Not excessively, a major difference in sizing, but I do notice more volume in this Prodigio Pro at a US 10.5 compared to the Max here. And I was originally sent a US 10 by mistake, and that shoe was pretty much unrunnable for me. I was really jammed up in the front, which was kind of an indication of how more snug this shoe feels in comparison to this one. It definitely feels less volume over the top in this one. I have to keep this lower 1 or 2 rows of laces here definitely looser here, whereas a little different setup with the rows here. This one's narrower here, but I definitely just keep this nice and, more tighter than this for sure. This is a wider, lower row, and I have to keep it loose just to maintain some more volume in here. It just seems to be a little shallow over the top. And as you can see, being that I'm primarily running in the Max today, I'm wearing ultra light socks. And I would expect at a US 10.5, I think I have about equal space, but it seems like the rocker is more evident in this Max model. And again, the volume, those two things together, it just makes it feel tighter in the toe box. I feel like definitely if I went with a regular sock, not an ultra light thin sock here, I might even run in a US 11 in this model, not the Pro, the Max, which is like unfathomable. I don't have any shoe in a US 11, but I feel like I could wear a regular, certainly a thick cushion sock and be completely fine, maybe even more comfortable in an 11 in the Max here. With the thin sock, I feel spacious enough here, but again, this is an ultra thin sock. If I'm gonna wear a Max shoe for a Max type of effort or race, I wouldn't normally wear a thin sock like this. I would wear something at least, midweight, or maybe with zonal cushioning in the heel or the toe. And I just feel like when I have those kind of socks in this shoe, it feels a little bit snug. I have heard from comments that people have recommended a little bit of a break-in period from this shoe, and that's something that mirrors my own experience. I'd say they do feel a little bit stiff right out of the box. It's not a super soft, squishy foam, and it just seems like that nitrogen EVA slash TPU in the middle and EVA at the core. It just takes a little bit to kind of break in, maybe mold a little bit underfoot. La Sportiva calls this particular midsole blend X-Flow Endurance, whereas the Pro model is called X-Flow Speed. There's mention in both shoes of having a TPU core, nitrogen infused, and also nitrogen infused EVA carrier foam. I do remember them somewhat saying though that there would be more kind of EVA blended into this Max midsole here, and I thought that meant for more softness. I don't recall specifically that's what they said, but that was the impression that I got. And I don't know, it just doesn't necessarily feel like it's the case here. I did measure heel stack full height from the bottom of the foot to the ground at 37 millimeters in this Max. 6 mil drop, that gives 37.31. I've got the Pro model at 34.28. 3 mil difference in stack height, both at the heel and the forefoot between these two models. That 3 mil difference is definitely felt, but for me it feels more in a protective sense than an actual cushion sense. I definitely noticed that shoe is less flexy underfoot, and with that additional 3 mil, I definitely notice my foot twisting a little bit less in this shoe, a little bit more kind of regular on the ground without much, variation between, the heel and the forefoot. Might not be as great in technical terrain, especially at speed, than the Pro version, but definitely more protective. Again, with that outsole there, you've got full rubber throughout. Maybe that also makes it less flexible. That certainly plays a part, but I don't get the sense that you're really going up a lot in cushion or softness of feel underfoot. Of course, more protection does equate to more comfort, especially if you're looking at longer ultra distances, as this shoe is likely expressly designed for. So you do have comfort in that regard. The Max also does feel flatter underfoot, and that's mainly under the forefoot, I find. Prodigio Pro has that really kind of nice rounded feel, and that's laterally, from left to right, from the outside of your foot to the inside. It just feels like there's a lot of play there for your foot to kind of roll or adapt into terrain that's not necessarily flat or even underfoot. We'll take a quick pause here. I'm starting this run as usual heading uphill, and generally speaking, it's more comfortable to have your shoes looser on the uphill because you're putting a lot of pressure in the front of the shoe as you're climbing up, and you want to snug them down for downhill. That's generally speaking if you have the opportunity to adjust them. But even with the thin socks, even with the looser lower lacing, as I mentioned, I'm still feeling a little bit of a squeeze here. I don't know if it's this kind of wire overlay here. I definitely feel that. This is like the base of my big toe. Well, my big toe's right here. Base of the ball of my foot underneath the big toe is right here on this thing. And I just feel like it's a little bit squeezing right there. I wonder if they could have maybe extended the length of these cords so it kind of, you have a little bit more volume, I guess, over in this area coming over the top of the foot. It just seems like it's really coming over a little too tight, even though I have this loose. I think with the flexing, I don't know, something about it is just, I don't know, it feels, definitely lower volume than the width should indicate, especially at a size US 10.5 here. A little dip here within a steady uphill. The shoe does ride smoothly. Nice smooth ride, but I feel like with that wide, flat feeling ground platform, it really relies on that rocker up front to turn the shoe over. Not so much say, flexibility around the middle of the shoe. Really using that rocker at the toes to propel you or just like roll forward. It's almost similar in feel, although not quite as stiff as the North Face Vective rockers. I feel that pressing into the front of my toes, right at the front of the toe box there. Even now, my second and third toes, those are the ones next to the big toe, one next to it, and the middle toe. I just feel the bottom of the shoe kind of pressing into those toes. And in an earlier test run, where I was initially running with kind of like medium, regular socks, I even did get a hot spot on my third toe, the middle one, which is not even my longest toe there. So there's definitely some noticeable upsweep right at the front of the toe box there. If that's something that doesn't agree with you, or you like kind of a flatter feel up front, it's gonna be something different here with this shoe. The Pro model actually does have similar kind of rocker profile up front, but I don't feel that particular, pressure at the points of the toes in that shoe, because just the foam is more elastic than this one. The shoe just flexes way easier around the midfoot. That allows my heel and middle rear of the foot to really transition off the ground quicker than in this shoe. This shoe, it's kind of like really using the full rocker to keep going, since it's like stiffer around the middle of the shoe. Very good protection here. Really eating up all these rocks. Don't feel anything. There's no rock plate. They also have no mention of a film in here. In the tech sheet of the Pro, they do mention there being a thin film. You don't have that here, but it does feel more protective. Getting a little climby again here. And I don't know, maybe I laced my left shoe a little tighter. I'm feeling that squeeziness in my left shoe. So not what I would want to feel in, say, a Max cushion shoe. I would expect that this model would have a more relaxed fit than the Pro, and I don't find that's the case here. This one actually feels snugger and lower volume than the Pro at the same size. Maybe if I sized up to a US 11, which would be incredible in my sizing, maybe I'd have a different experience, and maybe that's what you need in this shoe. Go up a half size compared to the Pro. I am not cinched tight here though in my left foot. Right foot, it feels kind of the same. Definitely didn't give it a good squeeze on this lace setup here. I don't know, again, it just feels like I'm getting a little more squeeze than I would want for a Max cushion comfort shoe. So I'm gonna cruise on down here, mostly smooth in the top section, those bit of rocky parts down at the bottom, and then I'll talk about stability. The shoe will definitely cruise down here, although it doesn't really have that kind of soft crash pad as some other really high stack models have. This is a European alpine design shoe. That could be a good thing. I'm running in kind of smoother, runnable downhills the majority of the time, but perhaps in rockier alpine terrain, that kind of smoothness or softness at the heel could be a disadvantage. You definitely have a big chunk of foam back there. That's no doubt. 37, and it feels like nothing is getting through, so you're not gonna feel anything at the heel. Even around the midfoot of the shoe, especially with that extra outsole rubber compared to the Pro, really blunts a lot of impact. So when you're going around a bunch of rocky parts, definitely gonna lean more protective than cushioned. Trying to make sure I'm not being a little bit harsh on the fit of the shoe here, I have in my mind maybe the Prodigio Pro is such a good shoe, and specifically such a good shoe for me personally. I like that shoe so much. Maybe I'm just kind of influenced by the fact that Max, I expect this shoe to be just as amazing as that shoe, with maybe a little bit more cushion, or maybe just another leap forward, whereas it's kind of just a different type of shoe. If you do have this shoe already as you're watching this, let me know what you think, especially about the fit, down in the comments. Also the feel, the ride, the midsole. How does it feel? Does it feel firmer than you thought? Maybe less flex, less, I keep using the word elasticity, but that's just kind of what comes to mind, especially in relation to the Pro. Just, I don't know, what do you think? Let me know in the comments. I wanna see if my interpretations of the shoe and the ride here are kind of in line or just varying differently from what you feel, and also based on the type of terrain you're running in. I will say the foothold and security of this shoe from the middle of the foot to the rear to the heel is just as good as the Pro model. I feel super locked in, dialed, no heel slippage at all. Even though I am wearing a thin sock, I don't have extra cushioning in the heel of the sock here, and zero heel slippage. It's just that front of the shoe. I think around the ball of the foot and the front toe box, I would expect a little extra bumper of volume overall, certainly over the top. And the width is good. I think it's just really a volume difference, and this type of upgrade and stack and such with the Max tag, I would just expect it to lean a little more into space and comfort. Handling these bits of rocky section here pretty good. It's not crazy over here, but depending on how fast you're going, you can make it as tricky as you want to make it. Kind of going moderate here, just making sure someplace solid to land. Again, the ground platform is fairly wide under the forefoot, and with kind of the not as flexy feel underfoot, I just feel like could be a risk of being a little bit tippy in this shoe, just because you have such a kind of roundish platform under there under the forefoot. I've noticed at times in other runs, if I kind of hit the wrong spot there, can throw the foot a little bit suddenly also. So I do find I have to be a little bit more careful in this shoe for sure compared to the Pro. The Pro, I just feel like I can put my feet anywhere, and I just have more feel, more adaptation as the shoe strikes the ground. This one, a little more care necessary, but you know, you're getting added protection, different kind of shoe. It's just different. It's not the same shoe. Before I head back in, pop on one of the Pros there at the truck, I will have to say that on this run, I ran majority single track here, although non-technical, a lot of variation, twists and turns, and I find that this shoe feels more comfortable in that type of terrain. I also ran this shoe, being that it's a higher cushion shoe, I tried it out on some more gravel type terrain, hard surface, dirt roads and stuff like that, and it didn't feel as comfortable there. It definitely, those thoughts I had about it feeling flat and all that, it's definitely more exacerbated, say on forest roads, regular roads, just like generally hard surfaces. When you have single track and it's more twisty and turny, I think that gives more variation and feel. It allows the shoe to kind of open up to twist a little bit more than staying on a singular plane, say on a long 2-track or dirt road there. This twisty and turny, it does feel better on my feet. I would notice that my feet wouldn't feel that amazing on, say, just straight gravelly roads in the shoe. Just like that lack of flex around the middle was more noticeable when I was just always going straight. Now that I'm on pretty variable twist, turn, single track, my foot is moving a little bit more on multiple planes throughout this run, and it does feel more comfortable. So I would not peg this as a gravel shoe. In conclusion, this is like a more of a protective, still really a trail shoe. A couple of quick points to call out here before I get out on the run. Platforms are very close, pretty much. I think they're exact under the forefoot. You get a little touch of extra width, definitely under the heel in the Max, and actually definitely under the midfoot. So that's probably there for stability. A little wider here and here in the Max, plus of course full coverage outsole here. This is FriXion white, you can see FriXion red here. This is their stickier compound, less durable apparently, although I certainly have no issues with durability in the Pro here. They call this red, or I don't know if all reds are like this, but this one a bi-compound. So the outer lugs are apparently a harder wearing, more durable material, less grip, and you have a softer, grippier one in the middle. I don't notice too much difference between the two outsoles. One thing I was talking about on the run there is just this feels like a nice wide platform, and I think it feels kind of stiffer than this one here. When I'm landing, I have to take more care. It just doesn't seem to have that flex. It just seems kind of flatter on the ground, like this landing area right here, less adaptability. And you know, certainly could be by design. This one here, it could be just the foam that feels, it does feel softer than this one, even though there's more here. This is definitely more energetic, and it could be just the foam that allows it. You also have these cutouts here too, so that could allow more adaptability. Like when I'm landing, say I feel like this is maybe contacting the ground, but it allows, see how it kind of flexes a little bit more, and I don't know, it just gives me a better, or actually this is the inside, but same thing, Mike, you'll get a better view. You see how that kind of flexes, and it just gives a really nice ground feel there. Don't quite have that with the Max. It's more like a regular feel. Of course, you're going to have some compression, but not that level of, say, adaptability that you get with this one. That's just what gives it a different feel, and you know, just definitely one of the differences I was feeling on the run. So just actually, as I'm walking here, didn't even start my watch yet, I notice a much quicker toe off here, much quicker transition, even walking in this shoe. Definitely get into that quicker. This one has a more grounded feel, and it takes definitely a little bit longer to roll into that rocker, as I was saying. I do feel the same thing, you know, I think they're about similar, the rockers, in terms of how far up they come. I feel this one, you know, at the tips of the toes again, but I never had the rubbing issue as I did in the Max in all my running and testing of the Pro here. I think it just kind of, because it gets into it so quick and you get off the ground so quick, and maybe it's softer, it doesn't really put that pressure into the front of the toes as you could kind of get with the Max here. It's definitely, yeah, it's fairly noticeable even just walking. All right, I'll start my watch now. Very striking difference in feel. I'm about 20 seconds into the run here. We'll mention the right away. 11.1 ounces in the Max, 9.6 here with my Prodigio Pro. So an ounce and a half. That is quite a lot, given the definitely more energetic feel in the Pro as well. It's just a huge difference in feel underfoot. Really getting off the ground much quicker in the Pro. Just feeling more grounded. Actually, definitely feeling more probably stable in the Max. So there's clear differences between these two shoes. The Pro, very energetic. I mean, I love the feel. I know how agile it could be, but even running as it is now, I feel like I could just kind of hop and like twist and turn all over like easily in the Pro here. Whereas with the Max is just a little bit more under control, which is fine. Probably good for that model. Check out my best of 2025 videos. The first one, I take a closer look at the Max and the Pro differences in the upper design. Pro, of course, has the knit booty on the inside, clamshell bolsters along the tongue. Max here is a little more traditional, regular tongue, some light kind of gussets on the side, a couple gillies down the center, just like a more standard setup there. I had kind of a sluggish run in the Max the other day, longish, but maybe the legs weren't feeling that amazing. So I took the Pro out the next day to kind of suss out is it the shoe? Am I not feeling the shoe that much? I didn't feel that different in the Pro, so I was like, I don't know. Now having them on, I mean, this is the best way to do it. One shoe on each foot. It's a little bit odd here running these two shoes because I feel like there you go. See that? Prodigio Max there. Caught kind of around this rock and surprised me there with a little turn. Yeah, they don't feel like they're direct competitors for sure. The agility and just the speed of the Pro, just totally different. But the feel is similar. The fit, that is similar. The midfoot hold, that kind of heel hold in the back security, they feel similar in that regard. So it's a little strange because fit feels so close, but I don't know, the ride is definitely different. I do feel like a little bit more volume, especially I don't typically wear this type of thin sock with the Pro, or I haven't in the past. I feel more volume over the top of the foot in the Pro, which is, or it's not surprising because I know that's how it feels, but it's not what I would have expected. Another clear difference I feel underfoot, aside from the weight, aside from the agility, this all goes hand in hand, obviously, is just the ground feel underfoot in this one. This one, with that 3 mil, I don't know, I guess it's probably, the density of foam is different. I don't feel really much getting through to the bottom of my foot in the Max here. In the Sportiva Prodigio Pro here, I definitely feel more ground. Nothing like, it's not a thin shoe. I don't feel super sharp points getting through to the bottom of my foot. I just, if I step on kind of stuff like this, or not necessarily like that, little sharper edges, I feel it under the ball of the foot in this shoe, whereas I don't with this shoe. So clear differences, speed, lesser distances, I would say, depending on the runner, of course. But I think for a lot of runners, if you're thinking in terms of generally protection and maybe you don't want that flexy, twisty feel, that could be actually too much. If you're, if that's not the type of runner you are, not the style of shoe that you're looking for, this is going to have a more regular, kind of forward directed feel, more stable, more protected. So thank you for tuning in once again to Humble Running. I think I covered a lot of ground, not necessarily mileage wise today in this shoe, but review wise, I would say in thinking about this shoe, don't overemphasize the Prodigio Pro if you either like or don't like this shoe. I would say it's a different kind of shoe. I went into this testing period of the Max probably a little bit too high expectations, a little bit more expectations in line with it being an extension of the Prodigio. Yes, In terms of comparison to La Sportiva's previous more stiffer, really mountain, rugged oriented types of models, their background as a brand in general, this is definitely fits within the Prodigio model, regular Prodigio model, Pro, and now the Max. These three are certainly on an island of their own compared to other La Sportiva mountain oriented models, both trail running and climbing and that kind of thing. But it is not like a direct kind of comp or just an extension of the Pro model. It's a different shoe in itself. The Pro is like faster, more agile, maybe more suitable for speedier, lighter runners for sure. I think for general runners looking for a bit more stable cushion, certainly in comparison to shoes that are like coming out, just for example, the Mafate 5 for one, even on Cloud Ultra, not the regular 3 model, maybe the Pro model. That's a super shoe at a much higher price point than this shoe, but shoes with those type of soft, squishier foams, more adaptable, people sometimes don't like that. Maybe you want a firmer feel. If you're looking for that firmer feel, also keeping kind of a wide-ish platform on the ground, certainly under the forefoot. I would caution that if you have a high volume forefoot, maybe you like the extra width. I think it works best if you have like a regular volume foot. If you have a high volume foot, you may want to look up, definitely going one size, potentially a size and a half in this model if you do have a wide and high volume foot. I think I'm on the edge here where it fits me good. Full size up with a thin sock, I find it to be a wide toe box, but not a high volume toe box, which was surprising for me as I talked about on the run. So I would just be careful a little bit about sizing there. Both shoes I recommend a full size up to start with. Surprisingly, you may even need another half size in the Max. The reaction is good. Obviously, again, just don't compare it to the Pro model. Maybe compare it to maybe other squishier models. You know, this has a reactivity to it that is not like super soft and squishy underfoot. It definitely uses that rocker design to keep it kind of rolling on the run. It's just solid on the ground. Like I said, one kind of thought that came to me as I was rounding out this run, I was feeling out this shoe earlier in my testing. I ran some canal paths. Sometimes I run easier trails to start just to get a handle on the fit and general feel of the shoe. And I don't think it worked with this shoe. I think it made it feel flatter. It made it feel, you know, stiffer than it really is when you're running. And as I was today on more single track trail and more varied, legitimate trail than just a straight path, I think that's where this shoe wants to live. It doesn't want to be cruising. It's not a gravel shoe. It's not one of those, you know, soft, cushy. It's just not for that. This is a legitimate trail shoe, and probably more so a mountain trail shoe. When you're on that twistier terrain, you're obviously putting more force into flexing the shoe. You're working different muscles of your foot and kind of using different areas of the shoe. And I think that's where this shoe more so opens up. I kind of maybe made this mistake of running a little bit too many easy miles just because, I don't know, it's a Max shoe, Max cushion. I just thought I'd feel it out in that way first. But I think it shines and really opens up in that real kind of regular trails. The shoe is meant to be on trails, and probably more so mountainous, rugged trails. So not the last you'll see of this shoe. I have a few comps in mind. I'll probably definitely work it into some testing just for fun. So let me know if you have a comparison in mind. If you have this shoe, let me know what you think. If you want to see it up against perhaps another model in different types of terrain or conditions and find out what I think, let me know down in the comments. Thank you for watching. Check out those best of videos. I have a mix of things, so maybe it'll be good ideas for comps and A/B type of stuff. As always, questions, comments, everything down below. Check out www.humblerunning.com. Sign up for my newsletter. I have affiliate links in the description below. These two La Sportiva shoes are there. The Pro I saw is at REI $168, and through September 1st. So that's the cheapest I've ever seen the Prodigio Pro. Jump on that. I'll have a link down in the description, okay? So I will see you in the next review or the next Q&A. Leave me a good question.